Chapter 1, Ignite the Divine Flame and Open Up the Divine Realm. Translator, Endless Fantasy Translation Editor, Endless Fantasy Translation. The Divine Voga Kingdom, Preparatory Seminary, Class 3. On the podium, there stood an extremely beautiful and slender woman. Her body was surrounded by divine light as a faintly visible halo rested upon her head. Students, although there are many paths to becoming a god, it is only by igniting the divine fire and condensing your followers' beliefs to open up the divine realm can someone be considered a true god. If not, you would be nothing more than a false prophet. A true god will be able to gather believers who trust in their faith, further strengthening their own divine power. There is even a chance of becoming a supreme being that will not die even after 10,000 calamities have passed and the world's collapse has befallen us. Therefore, you must be careful when condensing your followers' belief in you. Alright, let's not talk too much. Now, everyone line up and receive your faith points. As the beautiful goddess voice rang out, divine patterns flew out of her mouth as if ready to be imprinted in the minds of the students below her. Mostly, they just constantly reminded them to pay attention. N. //1, N. One by one, the students walked up to the platform in a solemn manner, unable to contain their excitement as they took a golden ball the size of a fist from their teacher's hand. Inside the ball, wisps of colorful air currents were constantly swirling about, akin to a mysterious spirit that was difficult to describe beyond the word magical. The last one to walk up to the platform was a tall and handsome youth. His name was Solo, a transmigrator from the planet Aquamarine. The particular planet was a powerful civilization where anyone who resided there could become a god. Everyone would enter the preparatory seminary at an early age to learn all kinds of knowledge related to gods and reach the peak levels of becoming a demigod through cultivation. Now, the people of Aquamarine only needed to ignite their divine fire, condense their followers' beliefs, and open up a divine domain to become an undying and powerful god. After that, they would just need to gather faithful believers to strengthen their divine power, body, and soul. Step by step, they would reach a higher level just like that. In fact, there were many ways to become a god. Faith was not the only path. For example, some mythical creatures could automatically condense a divine spark as long as they managed to reach the ripe age of adulthood, becoming extremely powerful combat-type gods. For example, some creatures had unique talents in certain areas, which gave birth to many different types of gods such as the forging god, the potion god, the architecture god, and many other gods that encompassed all other aspects of life. Other than that, there were also special gods that were skilled in an array of divination, curses, and enchantments. However, whether it was a battle god, a lifestyle god, or a special type life form, their overall combat power could not be compared to a god that was made from faith. This was why all other gods were considered false gods. Gods that could condense their faith had believers, godhood, and the support of their divine domain. Their combat power was countless times stronger than any other gods of the same level. Not to mention, they would also be able to nurture absolutely loyal believers, which would provide them the combat abilities and special elements to help them in battle. An individual deity of the same level would never be able to face a faith god. They would either submit and become believers to the faith god itself, or they would die at their hands, becoming nourishment for their believers. There were almost no exceptions. Beyond that, gods were also divided into three major levels: a god, a main god, and a king god. With those three major levels, each realm was also divided into three minor levels: lower god, middle god, and upper god. A new god who had just ignited the divine fire and condensed a divine spark was considered a first-level lower god. After receiving the power of faith, Solo went straight home and prepared to use some of his faith power to ignite the divine fire and condense a divine spark. He sat cross-legged on the bed and activated the faith god technique, slowly drawing the faith power into his body. When the faith power entered his sea of consciousness, his soul and body instantly felt like dry wood that had just encountered a raging fire. His soul immediately burned, and the raging flame illuminated his sea of consciousness, turning it red. However, in the middle of that sea of fire, there was a colorful ball of light. The ball of light continued to absorb the faith power, gradually condensing and shrinking until the flame dissipated, turning into a fist-sized colorful crystal. This crystal was considered a god's divine personality, and it was the most powerful thing a faith god had in their possession. Solo exhaled and slowly opened his eyes. At this moment, he was already a genuine lower-level god. However, the solemn look on his face did not disappear. Next, he still needed to successfully open up the divine domain to truly lay the foundation of faith for his followers. Similar to the God levels, the divine domain was also divided into 3 levels. Gods were connected to planes of existence, and a single plane itself could house over 1,000 planets that were full of life. On the other hand, main gods corresponded to a divine domain. This was a large region that contained at least 10,000 planes. For example, the place where Solo was located was within the Voga god king's divine domain. As for how big the universe he covered was, it was not something he could guess. That was an existence that only other god kings would know. Furthermore, the scale of a normal god's divine domain was around 3 planes. Middle-level gods could reach at least 3 to 6 planes. Among them, existences with extremely high talent could even reach the scale of 7 to 9 planes. It was said that a peerless genius had appeared in Voodoo's divine domain. He had managed to open up the 9 planes, shocking countless people. In the end, he was even taken in as a disciple by the Voodoo god king. Everyone was envious. Igniting the divine fire and condensing the divine spark consumed 1/10 of my current faith power. I wonder what level of divine territory the remaining faith power can help me condense. I'm not greedy. I'll be satisfied if I can cover at least 3 or 4 planets. Thinking of this, Solo closed his eyes again and continued to hone the divine technique. His consciousness spun for a moment before arriving at a place of chaos. This place was shrouded in fog, and he could not see past 10 meters away. It was clear that this was a primitive state of the divine realm that had yet to be opened up. Solo stretched out his hand and pointed toward the sky. Boundless golden light descended from the sky. With him as the center, it pushed the surrounding fog away, clearing the area. This golden light was the remaining faith power that he still had after condensing the divine spark. They were also the main force that had opened up the divine realm. When all the faith power was used up, the chaotic fog stopped expanding outward and condensed into a thick wall. The entire divine domain expanded, from just an area of 10 meters to a vast space. Over 1,000 points of starlight flickered across the wall. Opening up his divine domain was a success. However, there was no joy on Solo's face, only disappointment. A single planet. My divine domain is truly shabby. That was right. A divine domain created by an ordinary god had to at least be the size of 3 planets. This divine domain that was limited to only a single plane of existence was truly too shabby. However, at this moment, a cold and electronically synthesized mechanical voice sounded in his ear. Ding! The host has successfully condensed a divine spark and opened a divine domain. The 1,000-fold amplification system has been activated. Your divine domain has been amplified to a plane of 1,000 planets.